Well, back here in Washington, we have some new details in the investigation into the January 6th assault on the Capitol. CBS News and the Washington Post have obtained White House records of President Trump's activities on that day, and they reveal a more than 7.5-hour gap in his call logs. CBS's Robert Costa has more of his exclusive reporting.
As chaos engulfed the Capitol building on January 6th, President Trump spoke repeatedly on the phone with allies and supporters, some urging him to put an end to the violence. But none of those calls are reflected in the 11 pages of White House records for January 6 given to the House Select Committee. There is a massive 7-hour and 37-minute gap in calls from 11:17 a.m. to 6:54 p.m., which includes the most violent period of the attack. Congressman Jamie Raskin is a member of the House January 6 committee.
Are you frustrated, Congressman, about the gaps in the record?
Yeah, I'm a little puzzled by the gaps in the record. I'm determined to close those gaps.
CBS News has confirmed at least 2 calls during the attack that do not appear on the phone log or the daily diary. One call from Trump to Utah Republican Mike Lee, and another call to Trump from House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy, who described it to Norah O'Donnell by phone at the time.
I've spoken to the president. I asked him to talk to the nation to tell him to stop this.
The January 6 committee is now investigating whether the president and top aides used so-called burner or disposable phones to avoid scrutiny of their calls during that time.
It's almost like they didn't want this out there. And so we need to get to the bottom of this.
The logs do show several calls on the morning of the 6th, including from Rudy Giuliani and former President Trump's chief strategist, Steve Bannon. At 8:37 a.m., Trump spoke with Bannon, who sources say told him to call Vice President Mike Pence and urge him to block certification of the election. Trump later did phone Pence, failing to persuade him, but that call is not noted in the records. There is a listing at 11:17 a.m. The president talked on a phone call to an unidentified person. CBS News has learned the Pence call was in that time frame. There's also a lengthy gap during the attack, as recorded in Mr. Trump's daily diary. At 1:21 p.m., the president met with his valet, which signals a return to the Oval Office. The mob breached the Capitol just after 2 p.m., and the next entry isn't until 4:03, when Mr. Trump went to the Rose Garden to record a video for supporters.
We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special.
The phone logs pick up again that night when Mr. Trump had at least 11 calls between 6:54 and 11:41 p.m.
And Robert joins us now. All right, burner phones. I mean, what is President Trump saying about all this?
His spokesperson told us he had nothing to do with the records. Trump himself told us he doesn't even know about the phrase burner phones, have never used burner phones. But that statement's been called into dispute today by John Bolton, his former national security advisor, who told us Trump behind the scenes used that phrase many times in conversation.
It's just extraordinary. And so is the committee looking at this use of burner phones and what they were doing inside the White House?
7 hours and 37 minutes. They don't know who Trump was calling. This is part of the puzzle they're trying to piece together as quickly as possible. The midterms are looming. They're on a tight time frame.
All right, Robert Costa, thank you so much.
You.